Okay. All right. Nope. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. There has been a genre of books that have always baffled me because I've always wondered how people came up with this trope. Enemies to lovers, that is a real life trope. Friends to lovers, of course. Yeah, strangers to lovers, all that jazz. Fake dating has always been on my mind of who came up with that? Does it actually happen in real life? Where are we pulling from? Fake dating, arranged marriage, forced marriage, marriage of convenience would actually occur. And even though it's not real in my life, or would I ever fake date, unless it's with Drew Starkey, I just love reading about it. I do. I think that the reasons why people fake date are so interesting to me when I read about it in books, and they're all so different. So I wanted to include all of my favorite books that I have read that is all encompassing of not just fake dating, but arranged marriage, forced into a marriage, marriage of convenience, even though it could be inconvenient for one other person that's partaking in this marriage. So I want to discuss my favorite books that I've read that have those types of tropes in them. Majority of these book recommendations will be contemporary romances, but there are 3 fantasy books that I have read that include one of those tropes, so I thought I should include them. Since there's less fantasy, I will start with the fantasy. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is one of my favorite reads of this, well, it's a reread of this year, and it is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I love this book so much. I listened to this book for the first time on Spotify when it first was released last year, and I loved it. I loved the audiobook so much. And then for some reason I was having an itch to read this book, the physical copy of this book. So I read it and tabbed and underlined things and obsessed over Lo. Again, I became re-obsessed with this man, this werewolf alpha man. In this book you have Misery. Lovely Misery. She is a vampire and she is forced into this marriage with Lo, who is the alpha leader. It's supposed to show good faith between werewolves and vampires. So Misery is sent to live with Lo in his pack. Lo doesn't really like hanging around Misery. You don't really know why he has such a major issue with her. She doesn't know why. He doesn't want to really be around her but has to in certain situations. This book is so good. Either this one or Love Theoretically is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. I wish that she would do more of these paranormal books. Also, what I love is it's in Misery's point of view the whole entire book, but before every chapter you get a little excerpt of what Lo is thinking, and it literally just like makes my day. Like before every chapter you get a little thought bubble from Lo. And it could be cute, it could be spicy, it could just be like whatever he's thinking in his head, and I love it and I eat it up every time. The next one is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is the only book that I've read. I need to continue with the series. I was so confused reading this book, and then when I got to the end, I was just left there like, what the heck is going on? I was so confused. So now that I know the ending of this book, I need to do a reread before I start Legendary and Finale, because I do want to read Once Upon a Broken Heart also. That's on my list for this year of fantasy books that I want to read. This book follows Scarlet. She's kind of the main character in this book. She also has a sister, Tella. Every year growing up, Scarlet would write to this man called Legend. He would put on these whimsical, fantastic, like traveling carnival to different islands, and she begged and begged and begged every year for an invitation. After a while she gave up, and then her father, mean man, decides to arrange a marriage for Scarlet. Finally, Scarlet then receives an invitation to said Caraval, but she doesn't want to go. She kind of doesn't want to rock the boat, doesn't want to upset her father. Tella then basically kidnaps her and hires this mysterious sailor to take Scarlet and Tella to the island where Caraval is taking place. When they get there, Tella goes missing. You find out that this year's Caraval, this scavenger hunt that's taking place for Caraval, is to find Tella, and the first person to find Tella is the winner. So Scarlet and this mysterious sailor named Julian, they have to date in order to try and find out where Tella is. There's other competitors on this island that also want to win. You do not know what is a performance. You do not know what is real. The magic that takes place on this island, you don't know the consequences for your actions or what's gonna happen. This was so confusing to me because I truly, like, I have trust issues already. This book made me have severe trust issues. I think this was my first fantasy book that I had ever read. So I was really confused with the magic system. So now that I've had a few fantasy books under my belt, I will go back and read this and hopefully I will understand a little bit more of what's going on. But this was actually a pretty great book from what I can remember. It made me realize that I would never want to attend a Caraval because, again, severe trust issues, don't know what's real, don't know what's fake, high stakes. But I mean, if it was a free ticket, maybe. We're still thinking it through. The last fantasy book that I want to talk about in this entirety of Tropes is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This follows Araya. She is a human living with vampires. Her father, like her adopted father since she's a human, is the king of vampires. She partakes in these trials, this game, where if you participate in these kind of like Hunger Game trials, the winner of said games gets a wish from the vampire goddess. So she is the only human partaking in these games with other vampires. So she makes an alliance with 2 other vampires. One of them is kind of a love interest. They kind of have a little thing going on. And that's all I'm gonna say. Because the way that this book ends, I actually did not see coming. And again, with my trust issues, at least I know my limits when it comes to certain things in books. Like, if this ever happened to me, you'd catch these hands, you know? This is actually a really great introductory if you haven't read fantasy before. I think this is a great starter for said fantasy. Vampires, very straightforward. These games are very interesting. You get whatever wish you want, but obviously with any wish, it backfires a little bit. You know, what does the genie say? You don't always get what you want. Does the genie say that? Someone says that. It's a saying for a reason. Jumping into my contemporary romances for fake dating, arranged marriage, marriage of convenience, whatever you want to call it. These books are actually really good and I love them so much. They all hold a different place in my heart for a certain and special reason. So the first one I want to talk about is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is the last book in the Twisted series and it is my favorite personally. Twisted Games and Twisted Lies are my favorite. I think this just wraps up the series perfectly for me. I love Stella. I love that she is a tall queen representation. I love that she's a shy, introverted girly. And Christian Harper, in my opinion, is fantastic. Right, what is his name? Reese? Sorry, I say that because I read Twisted Games in its entirety, calling him Rice. And then I found out on TikTok that it's Reese. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know that? But then I didn't know about Reese and all of that. Anyways, Twisted Lies follows Stella. She is a model, influencer. She's really big on social media. And then you have Christian Harper. He's this head of his security. He's mentioned in Twisted Games. All encompassing security man, bodyguard, company, apartment built. He is just like an entrepreneur. My man's is monopolizing all that he can. He has this infatuation with Stella. Stella is living in Christian's apartment complex. She finds out that her stalker has returned. Christian then allows her to live with him. But before this, they make a deal to fake date. Stella's followers will grow if she's seen dating someone, and people will leave Christian alone if they find out that he has a girlfriend. He needs a girlfriend to bring to all of these events. He doesn't want to go alone, all this stuff. That is why they are fake dating. When I first was going into this, I was like, why is it so thick? I honestly do not care about reading about an influencer, but the more that I learned about Stella and her background, the way that she grew up, her stalker, Christian and his backstory, this is, yeah, my favorite book. I think it's just so incredible. It includes all the other characters in the series. Great ending to a series that I actually enjoyed. Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is also the last book in a series that's also green. that I've noticed. Interesting. Hopeless is a part of the Chestnut Spring series that I've mentioned a bunch of times. It's the cowboy romance series. I'm obsessed with it. This follows Bo. He is one of the Eaton brothers. There are 3 Eaton brothers that have a book in this series, and this happens to be Bo's. He is a military man, right? There's a certain word for them. Military hero. Okay. Handsome military hero with a tortured past. To say the least, my man has PTSD. He's mentioned in all the rest of the books, basically like he runs co-ops. What he does is very hush-hush in the military. Nobody knows where he's going, what his mission is. Sometimes he'll be home and then he's gone for long periods of time. Something traumatic happens to him and he is sent home, no longer needs to serve in the military. And so in his book, you learn how he's trying to cope with not being in the military and, you know, what does he do because his whole life has been designated to serve in the military and run these co-ops. And then you have Bailey. She's the town outcast. Her family is despised. They are hated on. She is trying to get out of this town, try and make enough money to leave this town behind. Bo and Bailey make this bet to be fake engaged. That way his family can stop harassing him to figure out his life. And then Bailey can then get a job, get enough money to then leave this town because he's seen as like the town prince, the town sweetheart. The more that they get to know each other, the more they help each other heal. I really enjoy this book. People hate on this book so much. I think maybe it wasn't the way that people were expecting, but I think this book is exactly what I envisioned Bo to go through after serving in the military and after going through what he went through. And I mean, it's not my favorite in the series, but it's definitely not my least favorite. And so I really enjoyed this book. I love Bo, I love Bailey, and enjoyed the development of their relationship and how like being fake engaged helped both of them. The next book is Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. This is the first book in another series, and this is the only book that I actually enjoyed friends to lovers. I'm not really big on friends to lovers. I don't know why. I think that maybe is one of my least favorite book tropes, but I did enjoy this. They are best friends. Stella is the owner of a Christmas tree farm. She's running low on income coming in for the farm, and so in order to save her farm, she applies for this influencer to come and visit, and whoever wins this competition, the influencer will visit said location and also win a cash prize. However, Stella said that she runs her Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend. She ends up winning this competition and asking her best friend Luca to pretend to be her boyfriend while this influencer comes, visits, checks out her farm, enjoys cozy time in this cute little town. There's something, maybe it's just because it's also a Christmas book, there's just like a cozy, cute vibe that surrounds it and just kind of hugs you like a warm blanket and gives you some like hot chocolate. And it's on a Christmas tree farm, so I think that is probably an added bonus of why I love this book. But it's so cute. I mean, you don't have to read it during Christmas time. It's obviously good if you want to because it is a Christmas book. I really did enjoy this. I think it was really good and the concept was really great too. The next one is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This was my introduction book for Abby, and at first I was not a fan of this book just because I didn't like the way the FMC attacked the MMC when they first met. She obviously made up for it later on, but I didn't really like how that was her first reaction. I know everyone's going through something, but I just didn't like the way that she went at him. You have Brianna. She is the FMC. She is a doctor at this hospital. She is going through personal issues. She's going through a divorce, and also her brother needs a kidney donor. Then you have a new doctor in this hospital, Jacob, and he has severe anxiety. He was my favorite character just because you really get into the mind of someone that has severe anxiety, like social anxiety. I really resonated with Jacob as a character because it just shows kind of a little bit of what someone with anxiety goes through, and I really loved that representation. I think Abby Jimenez does a great job showing mental health issues in her books. Brianna, like I said, kind of attacks Jacob, gets off on the wrong foot. Jacob feels terrible for no reason, honestly, and decides to write a letter to Brianna apologizing. They go back and forth with letters, and Jacob ends up helping Brianna with something. So in return, Brianna decides to fake date Jacob because of his own problems. In this fake dating concept, they get to know one another. They get to become like really good friends. The only thing is just like the miscommunication. That's why I was so aggravated, is they're like, well, I wish he liked me. Oh, I wish she liked me. They're doing all this nice things for me because I did nice things for them. It's like, no, it's because they like you. Like, they like you more than a friend. You should know this. This is common knowledge. Why are you in denial? Once I hit the halfway mark, the rest of it was just so good. Something clicked in my mind where I fell in love with this last half of the book. I'm glad, like I'm happy for her, because it made me want to continue reading more of her books, which is Just for the Summer. If you've seen any of my videos on my channel, on my TikTok, I cannot stop talking about Just for the Summer. It is such a great book that also should kind of be included into this video now that I'm thinking about it, and I will, because I will literally recommend that book as much as I can. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Another great book. I am obsessed with this book. I will literally recommend this book as much as I can. I will try and find fantasy elements in this book so I can recommend it as a fantasy. This follows Emma and Justin. Justin posts on this Reddit forum saying that everyone that he has dated, once they break up, she goes on to find the love of her life. And he's like, that's great, but like, I want to find the love of my life. And so Emma sees this, messages him, and she's like, same. Literally everyone that I date goes on to find their love of their life. So they decide to make a bet and basically date for just a summer. They do all of like normal dating activities, and then after the summer is over, they break up so they can go on and find the love of their life. The more that they get to know one another, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you're just watching two characters fall in love, and it's so wholesome. The quotes in this book really hit home for me on both sides. You have Justin. His mom is going to prison, and he has to raise his siblings on his own. And then you have Emma. Her mom is such a flighty person. Emma is there for everyone. She gives so much to people and doesn't get that much in return. Both of their stories are just so impactful that you can see yourself in both characters. There is just such great moments in this book. I cannot stop recommending this book. It is just so powerful. The love story in this shows how authentic and how real love is. It's not just fairy tales all the time. It's not just like, oh yeah, I love you, we're gonna end up forever, no fighting, nothing for the rest of our lives. That's just not what love is. And I think about this book constantly. Abby Jimenez did some mental reprogramming, chemistry changing of my brain with this book. The last physical book that I want to talk about is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This kind of goes hand in hand with Abby Jimenez Just for the Summer. I read Just for the Summer first, and then I read Funny Story, and I could see a lot of similarities in both books. Both of these characters are going through a lot in their personal life. You have Daphne and Miles. Daphne is engaged, ready to marry this man that she's been with for a while. He comes home and says that he's actually in love with his girl best friend that he's known for his whole entire life, and that they are going to be together. So Daphne is like, whoa, I'm scrambling, I have to move out, where do I go? She moves in with Miles, who was dating the man that Daphne was going to marry's best friend, who is now together. I feel like there's a better way to explain that. Daphne and trash fiance, Miles and trash girlfriend, trash fiance, best friends, then date each other. Daphne moves in with Miles because he's the only person that knows what Daphne is going through. So she lives with him for a little bit before she leaves Dodge. You know, like she wants out of this town. Miles finds that out and was like, well, this is actually a really great town. Have you ever explored it? Did he ever take you around this town so you can fall in love with this town? And she was like, nah, no, never, ever. And he's like, well, let me take you out around these towns so you know what you're gonna be missing if you do move away. So they go see the town. He takes her around, meets different people, different views, his like favorite spots around town, and you see them become friends. You see them kind of fall for each other, lean on one another, and it's just so cute. It's so wholesome. I love Miles. He's definitely an acts of serviceman. Both him and Justin are acts of servicemen, and I love acts of service. The last two that I want to talk about are two that I read on my Kindle. The first one that I want to talk about is The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. This was my first book that I read from her. I read this, or I listened to it actually. I listened to it right after I listened to Bride, because I wanted to go down a deep dive of like werewolf romances. There was a certain thing that was mentioned biologically with werewolves in Bride, and a lot of people were talking about it on TikTok when it first came out and doing like different recommendations. So I saw someone recommend The Fake Mate, and they definitely do a lot more descriptive reasoning for different werewolf biology. And let's just say that was the last werewolf book that I read. Not that it wasn't bad, I was just so confused, and I'm like, do I want my mind to know this about werewolves? And I really had to sit with myself and wonder, why do I find this so fascinating? And I think it scared me, so I stopped reading werewolf romances. The Fake Mate is about Mackenzie and Noah. Mackenzie is on the phone with her granny and is just like talking to her grandma. Her grandma wants her to find her mate. It's been a while since Mackenzie's dated. She's kind of getting fed up with this conversation, so she blurts out that she is dating someone. The first name that pops into her head is the brooding, grumpy doctor Noah. On Noah's side of his story, he's the head honcho of the cardiology department, and so they find out that he is a unmated alpha. And I don't really know why that's so bad, but his career is in jeopardy. When Mackenzie comes to him and asks to fake date her, he sees this as an opportunity to save his career. So they end up fake dating, telling people that they're each other's mate, which, if you don't know what that means, it's like one... Actually, I don't really even know what that means. My interpretation of it is your one true love, and it's very rare to find your mate, and so that is how I'm taking it. It wasn't bad. I loved Bride better. I think I gave The Fake Mate 3 stars, which is something that I would still recommend. It was definitely mindless, definitely entertaining. It was all around a good vibe, but I think what I hated the most was the third act breakup. I just don't know why some books have to do that. I think that's why I'm gravitating a little bit away from contemporary romances, just because almost every single contemporary romance book that I have read or listened to, there's been a third act breakup. It makes me so mad. I feel like I'm going crazy. I think maybe that's why I don't give it anything higher, was just because of the third act breakup, but I did enjoy it. Like I said, learned a lot. I think listening to it was a better option for me because I liked hearing the tone and the switch up and the guy's voice. I don't know, something about it. You can hear like, I love it when I listen to a book where the man is super brooding, but then all of a sudden there's like an intense scene and you hear the intensity in the guy's voice, and it's just like, whoa, I didn't know you could be dramatic like that. And then the last one I want to talk about is My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington. I don't really know how I feel about this book. It was kind of an all-around roller coaster for me because there were some parts that I actually hated. I like a brooding man in a book, but he wasn't giving me much. And also the FMC, I stopped counting after all of the eye rolls that I did when she spoke. And now that I'm thinking about it, why did I give it 3 stars? There must have been like certain scenes in the book that I enjoyed, but overall it wasn't the best for me. I was kind of confused on like when this actually was taking place, doing arranged marriage and rich families and all that stuff. So you have Romeo. He is this man, this handsome man, apparently. I don't remember her name because I feel like it's not Juliet for some reason. And the only name that he called her that I remember was Shortbread, because I think she ate cookies, like a lot of shortbread, or they first met and she was eating a shortbread cookie. The FMC is set to marry another man, and Romeo is this man's rival. So Romeo decides to take the FMC away from this like debutante ball, which is like the most southern thing for rich people that I've read in like ever. They leave, they're making out or something, and then all of a sudden there's a large crowd of people and she's disowned because she was set to marry another person, and therefore because she was kissing another man, she has to marry said man, which is Romeo. Now that I'm thinking about it, what did I like about this book? Because I was reading some of the quotes that I had highlighted on my Kindle, and one of them, 2% into the book, she said, God wasn't a man, God wasn't a woman either. God was probably a piece of Godiva covered fruit. I knew right then and there that I was in enemy territory because I just cannot do it. I don't mind a sassy FMC. I really don't. It just, there's a certain way to go about it, and a lot of books have done it correctly, and a lot that I have read do not. And I think that's what kind of takes me out of this book. So I'm kind of wondering what I liked about it. I need to read my review. My main beef with this book is the FMC. She acts like a spoiled 16-year-old girl when she's supposed to be 21. So, do I recommend this book? You know what? It's up for your interpretation. That's the summary of this book. Those are the books that I've read that include fake dating, arranged marriage, marriage of convenience, forced marriage. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you read a book that includes one of those tropes that you absolutely love, leave that also down in the comments. I love reading new genres. I love book tropes. Love, 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 love. I don't want to narrow down a book just to their trope, but I think with fake dating, that's the main plot, so it works. I do enjoy a lot of these books, except for my Dark Romeo, but all of the rest I really like. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe for more videos to come. If you want to follow me on any other social media platforms, I will have them linked down below in the description, and I hope to be seeing you in the next video. Bye.